Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Observations of an American Living in Germany. Well, this is a little bit weird and it's not just about Germany, but I was occasionally I delve into watching some informative and educational YouTube videos. Some of them are biased one way to the left, some are biased one way to the right. Others are more just informational rather than trying to persuade anybody. But there's something very interesting about the next generation. And it seems that the United States and Germany both have a low birth rate. The people who are millennials, that would be described as people born between 1980 and 1985. So you're looking at people who are maybe are oldest are 40, the youngest are in their late 20s, like maybe 27, 28. My wife and I, we have three children who are grown. They're part of Gen Z. My son is coming up on 25. My wife has daughters who are 24 and 21. And this video was very interesting. It was talking about that people who are millennials are less likely to marry. They're less likely to have children. They're postponing it and they're doing it later. And it's causing the population to gradually get older. And Social Security and Medicare and other programs are overextended for my generation. My wife and I are very early Gen X, but we've got a lot of economic and demographic problems headed our way. People are not having as many children as they used to. And I know in the United States, that's offset because we've had a pretty high amount of immigration. And people who migrate from elsewhere tend to have more children in their families. I know it's just anecdotal here in Germany, just from what I see, but there's a lot of non-Germans who are here and they're having a lot of children. So, you've got some people who worry on one hand about, well, if you have all these people coming from somewhere else, it's going to change our culture. But they need labor too. And it gets kind of complex. But I noticed that Germany, apparently, from what I understand, does not have birthright citizenship like the United States does. So, and people in Germany don't seem to assimilate as quickly, newcomers that is, don't seem to assimilate as quickly here as they do in the United States. Now, maybe some of my German friends can chime in on this. I find the whole things about anthropology, sociology, demographics, I just find that stuff kind of interesting. It can be a very good thing to have vibrancy, and if that's a word, vibrancy, makes your culture more vibrant, more diverse. You have, food, clothing, music, rather than just being a monolithic society. But on the other hand, in the United States, the big difference we have is that the United States does not have a racial or ethnic identity. You look at the U.S. Olympic team, there will be black people there of African descent. There will be people from the Caribbean. There will be Hispanics, Native Americans or American Indians, Eskimo, white people, people from the Far East, people from Asia who have lived their whole lives in the United States. So the United States is kind of different. Our motto, e pluribus unum, from many, one. But countries in Europe are a little different. Italy has an ethnic identity of Italians. Germany is full of German people. Likewise, you've got Finns in Finland. You've got Hungarians in Hungary. You've got Poles in Poland, Czechs in the Czech Republic, and so on. Ukrainians and Russians, although they kind of have that dynamic going where there's a lot of people in Ukraine are of Russian ancestry and would consider themselves Russian. So that's a whole different animal. I'm going to leave that one alone. But if you go to France, you expect to see a lot of French people. So the Germans, the French, the Italians, the Spaniards, and whatnot, they have a cultural and an ethnic identity. And when they have a lot of people coming in from elsewhere, it causes tension. Less so than it does in the United States. Because as I said, the United States is more of a, it's it's like an idea, it's a spirit, it's just a way of life. And you have neighborhoods in America that are extremely diverse. You'll have people of Arab descent, people who are Hispanic, people who are white, Far East, people who are black, and they pretty much go about their lives normally. I've noticed that in Europe, it seems like there's a little bit of tension going on. I followed a discussion that was going on the internet. Like I said, we don't involve ourselves in the German political system. I find it fascinating. I'm trying to learn a little more about it, but there's apparently a party called the AfD Party, the Alternative for Deutschland. Now, some people are saying they're like Nazis or they're like the Third Reich. Other people are like, well, they're patriotic and they just care about Germany and they're against communism. Okay. From what I read about them, they're extremely popular in the former East German states, which is kind of ironic because the East German states lived under Soviet-style communism for several decades. So you got a lot of dynamics going on. You've got the parliamentary system here, and you have parties like the left, the SDP, the CDU. Forgive me if I'm getting it wrong, but I just it's fascinating how you have like 13 or 14 political parties and they develop coalitions with each other. And again, I'm an outsider. I'm an Auslander. I don't have a dog in that fight, but I just find it interesting that different countries have some of the same strife and the same tension going on, but they might have different ways of going about it or different reasons why the problem exists. As they say, no man is an island, and with the internet and people trading with each other and commerce, the stuff, blind nationalism, just like, well, we're going to be an island unto ourselves. That really doesn't work in today's society. But yet the other side of the coin is, you want your nation to be as nice for your children and grandchildren as it was for you growing up. And that makes people more resistant to change. So that's just what I was thinking about this morning. And, we've got our election coming up in the United States next year. And that's a total clown show, but it's probably going to get crazier before it's all over. But I know in Germany, you don't elect your chancellor. I guess that would be Olaf Scholz, your chancellor, your prime minister, whatever you call him. But your parliament selects the person. So it's different than the United States. And I'm not saying our system's better. I'm not saying yours is better. But, it is as economic tensions increase and you have more people living in the same space of land and you have politicians trying to constrict your energy output and constrain your economy, it's going to lead to even more discord. When there is abundance and people live in peace and you don't have as many people competing for limited resources, there's more harmony and less strife. When people feel as though, well, that group of people over there, they're taking what is rightfully ours, that's when you get people coming into conflict. And it's understandable why somebody would want to come from a country that is very poor, where there's a lot of crime, there's no law and order, ethnic cleansing, genocide, and war and famine and all that, going to countries that are more developed where they have a better opportunity. But, it's like, well, how do you balance letting people improve their standard of living versus maybe irreversibly changing the place where they're going to? It's never easy, but I just, I don't know. I find this stuff fascinating. And as a guest here in this lovely country, we as Americans, we're here under status of forces. So, last year there was a protest over in Mainz, and I saw an email about it that I don't know, we were supposed to avoid it or something, and I wouldn't have want anything to do with that. But you know, it's a matter of respect. You know, when you're a guest in someone else's house, you do your best to abide by their rules. But just stuff that I've been observing, I try and stay informed. I try and read about it, and I'm a work in progress. But that was what I was observing. A lot of discussion going on, and if you are familiar with the AfD or you know anything about them, just give me your honest opinion. Are they crackpots, or are they people who are deeply concerned about the future of Germany? I I think that Germany has some of the same problems with politicians that we do in the United States. It becomes more about grandstanding and, you know, making false promises to people than it does about actually solving problems. But anyway, well, that's enough rambling for this morning. I hope everybody has a good Monday. And, you know, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you hate it, give me a thumbs down. Just react with it somehow. Maybe leave a comment. I've got a pretty thick skin. I can take criticism. But my point isn't really to start an argument. I'm just trying to further the discussion and maybe ask some questions. Like I said, I'm a work in progress. I'm a guest in this country, so, you know, when I'm in Germany, I follow the German rules as best I can. I did make the mistake one time of making a right turn on red, but fortunately it was my first week here and nobody saw me. But that's a habit that I finally broke. I'm going to be back in the United States the end of next month, and it'll be interesting to see what I do if I come to a red light and I'm allowed to make a right turn. I'm going to hesitate for a second. I'm also going to have to be very careful. I'm going to be doing a lot of highway driving when I go back home, and I'm going to have to be very careful about my right foot because the United States does not have unlimited speed limits on a lot of the highways like Germany does, especially on the East Coast. Anyway, ciao.